'80s are boom years for American museum construction, and one of our best-known ones is preparing for an onslaught of increased attendance. It's the fourth time in 2 generations that the Museum of Modern Art, known to its friends as MoMA, has enlarged its capacity. Early in January of this year, all exhibitions were shut down. But don't worry, the museum reopens in temporary space on March 31st with a show of more than 100 works created between 1911 and 1917 by Giorgio de Chirico, who influenced the Surrealists. This runs to the end of June. Longtime MoMA fans will discover the museum's temporary entrance is now on West 54th Street. The museum garden is closed during the renovation, but it will reopen when MoMA's new space is all finished. And old-time movie buffs take heart. A new MoMA theater, the Roy and Uta Titus Auditorium, opens in June with part 2 of the series, Rediscovering French Film. This is Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. What do you call perfection? Well, if you play the violin, you might say Stradivarius. No one made violins like that native of Cremona, Italy, Antonio Stradivari. And the Fort Worth Symphony has acquired 2 called the Davis and the Mackenzie after their owners. Priceless violins. Well, not exactly priceless. A Fort Worth oil executive paid over $250,000 for the Davis, made in 1710. The Mackenzie, made in 1685, was purchased by another music lover, and both violins were donated to the symphony for use by the leaders of the 1st and 2nd violin sections. This is a treat at a time when more and more Strads end up in museums and private collections. And we've got a treat for you violin lovers, the sound of a Strad. Stradivari made his last violin nearly 250 years ago, and only 600 or so are left. His original design has been duplicated, but no one has ever created a sweeter sounding instrument. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. That master of comedy, Charlie Chaplin, once said, "All I need to make a comedy is a park, a policeman, and a pretty girl." He began an English music hall and worked in a comedy troupe which included a young Stan Laurel. Eventually, he came to America, where he worked for Max Sennett, the creator of the Keystone Cops. Sennett's filmmakers never wrote scripts. They made up their plots on the wing, and on those drafty, crazy outdoor sets was born a cinema that life itself seemed to imitate. And who has the courage to play Charlie Chaplin? John Rubinstein plays Charlie in a new musical. And he should know about playing legendary figures. He was raised at the knee of one. Famed pianist Artur Rubinstein is his father, and undoubtedly a proud father he was to see his son's touching performance in Children of a Lesser God. Chaplin covers the Tramps Music Hall days and is scheduled to open in Boston March 25th. Should reach Broadway at the beginning of May. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. Well, if you wanted to assemble some of the brighter lights of the American arts in the 60s, you'd probably include Lichtenstein, Rauschenberg, Oldenburg, and Warhol. That's exactly what Leo Castelli has done for the 25th anniversary of his New York gallery, an institution which has brought international attention to American painting and sculpture since the 60s. You remember the 60s. In addition to everything else that was going on, it was difficult to keep up with the changing aesthetic schools. We had conceptual art pop art, plus the more familiar types of abstraction. Artists were constructing gigantic clothespins. They were creating all black or all white canvases, or they were filling spaces with light. And beer cans were considered artistic subjects. So was Marilyn Monroe. The Castelli exhibit will tour in 5 museums and galleries around America through the next year. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. When the concert-goers attended the opening of London's new Barbican Centre, they might have imagined the clash of gladiators' swords or the thunder of chariots, as they were sitting on at least 8 centuries of cultural history. The $260 million art complex, the largest in Western Europe, is built on some of the oldest Roman ruins in London, the Barbican or City Wall. This year, it becomes home for the London Symphony and the highly respected Royal Shakespeare Company. Since Roman times, the area has seen drastic demolition and rebirth. The Barbican Centre revitalizes a part of London ravaged in World War II. In the opening season, Sir Michael Tippett and Hans Werner Henze concertize at the centre. And under the direction of Trevor Nunn, the Royal Shakespeare Company performs Henry IV. Nunn recently directed Nicholas Nickleby, both in London and New York. So an exciting first year is in store for Barbican. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. Igor Stravinsky's music is enjoyed by millions of concert-goers today, but just a half-century ago, the Rite of Spring provoked its first Paris audience to shouting matches and indescribable tumult. This June marks the 100-year anniversary of Igor Stravinsky's birth. And all year long, special events will honor the man who created musical possibilities that new composers still explore today. He said he would have liked to live a quiet life like Bach, yet he found the excitement of his times irresistible. He wrote ballets for Diaghilev, The Firebird, Petrushka, The Rite of Spring, Les Noces. Picasso and Cocteau did stage sets for him. And his austere and eloquent ballet, Orpheus, was commissioned by Lincoln Kirstein for George Balanchine to choreograph. The New York City Ballet has planned a series of Stravinsky ballets for its spring season. And the LA Philharmonic will feature a 2-week festival of the composer's works this coming June. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. If you're traveling in the Carolinas this summer, you can enjoy a fine blend of Southern hospitality and 2 of the most exciting summer arts festivals around. Charleston, South Carolina plays host to the renowned Spoleto Festival in late May. Giancarlo Menotti began the festival in Italy, where it still continues. This is its 6th year in Charleston, and events include concerts with Pinchas Zuckerman and Eric Leinsdorf, the New York Philharmonic, and a dance program you won't want to miss. It features the legendary Jose Limon Company, the Oakland Ballet as well. Drive on up to Durham, North Carolina, and you'll catch the American Dance Festival. In June and July, they'll feature some of the most original artists in American dance, like Merce Cunningham, the innovative Paul Taylor Company, plus the Alvin Nicolai Company. And as a special feature this year, the festival also presents 4 modern dance companies from Japan. The festival runs June 13th through July 24th in Durham. I'm Gene Klavan for Arts Minute. The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York is rounding out its already extensive collections with a new one of primitive art from the Americas, Oceania, and Africa. These rare works of art will be housed in the new Michael C. Rockefeller wing. The Met has seen many changes with the recent additions of the American wing, the Sackler wing, and the Chinese garden. The new wing represents a real opportunity for museum goers to view compelling art from geographically remote regions of the world. Some of the items on exhibit include a nose ornament from the 1st century AD, possibly from Peru. A seated wooden figure from the Mayan culture created sometime before the 9th century AD. This beautifully worked helmet from oceanic Melanesia, and this mask adorned with cowrie shells from the Cameroon. There are nearly 2,000 unusual objects of art on display at the recently opened Michael C. Rockefeller wing. If you're in New York, it's a great show to catch. I'm Gene Clavin for Arts Minute. I'm Gene Clavin, and I'd like to introduce you to a new feature on Arts Minute. Several times each week we'll be right here to inform you, amuse you, and let you in on some exciting new events in the arts. Arts Minute will keep you up to date with previews on dance and music from the classic to the contemporary. Prose, poetry, painting, film, and theater, from the experimental to the traditional. Whatever you need to know that's fresh and different. And we won't sidestep controversy either. Every so often, we'll sling a few arrows at the outrages of fortune, like art theft, movies, popularity of classical versus rock music. Since you'll be hearing from us, we'd like to hear from you. If you'd like Arts Minute to report on your community, perhaps you're having an important art show, a theater performance, or concert, just write to us here at Arts, care of Post Office Box 1277, Radio City Station, New York, New York 10019. I'm Gene Clavin for Arts Minute. Frankly, Scarlett, I don't give a damn. When Clark Gable was supposed to tell off Vivien Leigh in Gone with the Wind, they had to fight like hockey players to keep the expletive in the film to emphasize the human relationship. They don't care much about human relationships in films today. When they arrive at an impasse between two people, the chances are they'll solve it by a car crash, a machine gun from a helicopter, or an omen that makes the baby's head spin 360 degrees. Most of us can't solve our problems that easily. But some filmmakers have been watching too much television where problems have to be settled in time for the sponsor's message. In their movies, an in-law who threatens a marriage is crushed by a falling hotel. They'll take out a whole neighborhood with an oil derrick fire to avoid the dilemma of children in a second marriage. In real life, when somebody says the devastating words, "I don't love you anymore," we don't deal with it by bombing Denver. In the movies, there's a lot of car crashing, but real passion is out of fashion. I'm Gene Clavin. Sir, we're ready. Why do you think American kids are afraid of classical music? Maybe it's because of those melancholy announcers with the wired jaws on the good music stations, or those uptight teachers and critics who want us to think music was discovered on flaking scrolls in shrines in Vienna or Verona. Perhaps some of those people want to keep it in their own domain. Good music is too good for the rest of us. People who created so-called good music years ago were as loony, sexy, driven, jealous, hilarious as their wacky modern counterparts. Just suppose radio records and TV had been invented in the eras of Mozart, Beethoven, and Mendelssohn. They would have turned up on every talk show, awards program, in every gossip magazine. Strauss and Mahler would have been battling for record contracts and spots on the top 40 charts. Teenagers would have been chasing them, wigs flying in the breeze. Imagine what Rona Barrett would have done with Chopin and Georges Sand. They were real people, those people. Their concerts were concerts like ours, not ceremonies. Pass it on to the kids, will you? I'm Gene Clavin. I'm Gene Clavin. I want to introduce you to a new arts feature, Arts Minute. Arts Minute will be telling you what's going on around the world, around the country, maybe even your city. We'll cover just about every activity in the arts that we can think of, and you'll be the best informed person on the block. This is the second year of arts in most parts of the country, but it's our first time in Manhattan, and we want to welcome you new subscribers in cable land to the opening night of arts. From time to time on Arts, I'll be giving you some mini editorials which represent my own view on the arts. So since you'll be hearing from me, let me hear from you. If there's some wonderful concert, some fiesta that's going on, something you'd like the rest of the world to know about, or you just want to know about, here's an address you can write. Arts Minute, Radio City Station, Post Office Box number 1277, New York, New York 10019. So write, but don't send criticism. It depresses our entire staff, and it costs a lot of money these days. You know, it's too bad we don't do more to honor our national treasures. I'm talking about people, not landmarks. The Japanese have a 30-year tradition. Once a year, they honor their greatest artists by calling them living national treasures. The award's gone to artists who preserve cultural traditions, like the grand kabuki actors and some of Japan's master craftsmen. 66 artists have been honored so far. We ought to have something like that. So, from many candidates, here's my first list, all of them part of the American culture by now. Georgia O'Keeffe, whose paintings evoke images of the American West. She's 95. Louise Nevelson, creator of mysterious black and white boxes and environments. She's 82. Marian Anderson, the first black American to sing at the Metropolitan Opera. She's 80. And George Balanchine, 77, a legendary choreographer whose career spans ballet to Broadway. All of them modern masters, certainly treasures. Let's salute their presence and their contribution. Gene Clavin for Arts Minute.
Vestil Juba.
Pavarotti wants me to sing. A lot of us secretly think we're just as good as he is. 19 young folks are going to be lucky enough to realize a great ambition to sing with Luciano Pavarotti. They're winners of the Pavarotti International Voice Competition. The contestants were auditioned by a distinguished panel of judges, including Pavarotti, who came and said,
I want them.
Then, for about a year, the winners received special training to prepare for the most exciting part of the contest. Because it's not enough that they get to sing before Pavarotti or with people who know Pavarotti, but they will actually appear on stage with Pavarotti in 3 performances of Puccini's La Bohème and 2 performances of a Donizetti opera, Le Lisir d'Amore. You may say, isn't that wonderful? Why didn't you tell me this sooner? I'm sorry you didn't know about it. I'm sure you would have been chosen. I know I would. Gene Clavin for Arts Minute. Isn't this gorgeous? Or not so gorgeous, depending on your view of Art Deco. This is Radio City Music Hall, and it's celebrating its 50-year anniversary. We're lucky it's open at all, as a matter of fact, because this architectural monument and movie palace very nearly went out of business. It's the last vaudeville movie house in America, probably. But times have changed, and they've renamed it the Radio City Music Hall Entertainment Center. Now they present everything here from rock concerts to film premieres, like Napoleon, and of course, the Rockettes. They were originally called the Missouri Rockets. Then they changed the name to the Roxyettes because they were appearing at the Roxy Theater in New York. Since the 30s, more than 250 million people have seen the Rockettes, and no one has ever accused them of being great dancers. But they are a great tradition, and in large part, thanks to them, the era of great entertainment on the great stage goes on, let's hope, at least another 50 years. Gene Clavin for Arts Minute. You know, there are some actors who say, I'd like to stretch my art every once in a while and go back to the stage. If only I could give up the money I make in movies and soap operas. The truth of the matter is that there are some of them who do return to the stage, and one place they're doing it is the Stratford Festival, just a couple of hours from Toronto by car. Now, some people say nothing ever goes on in Canada except constitutional changes and people saying oot and a boot. Well, some of the biggest names have appeared on the Stratford stage, starting with Alec Guinness and Irene Worth in 1953. Even then, it was just a couple of hours from Toronto by car. This year, Len Cariou, who's just marvelous as Sweeney Todd, will be doing Shakespeare and Shaw at Stratford, and Carole Shelley from The Elephant Man and Tammy Grimes, who did 42nd Street, will be paired in Noel Coward's beautiful play, Blythe Spirit, all happening June 7th through October 23rd, a couple of hours from Toronto by car. Gene Clavin for Arts Minute.